This is ACOFAE. Laura Marie and Jessica Marie proudly present A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, a podcast. Fair warning, everything the hosts say is explicit, full of spoilers and adult content and shall not be used against them. They have opinions. Let's try not to drag anyone for expressing themselves and just have fun for an hour. We all deserve it.
This episode contains spoilers from the world Sarah J. Maas has created, as well as brief mentions of We Hunt the Flame, Neon Gods, Shadow Hunters, Euphoria, and the Songs of Wraiths and Ruin duology. There is also discussion surrounding substance abuse and addiction.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to A Court of Fandoms and Exploration, your weekly deep dive into the YA literature and fandoms that we love. I'm Laura Marie.
And I'm Jessica Marie.
And today we are discussing, for the second time, Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. Our first time recording Crescent City was December 28th, 2020. Can you believe that? 2020.
It's so weird. I'm like, who knew? I always think, who knew? But it was our first bookish episode. Like, this book means so much to us.
Really, really fantastic. So I have read this now 3 times. This is just your first reread of any Sarah work, and obviously your first reread of Crescent City. Tell us.
I mean, it's a lot, right? I mean, I know. Well, first, like, this episode, we're recording for, like, point of reference on February 6th. So we're really only going to, aside from what we know and what we've learned in our rereads and like additional rereads for Laura, we also only know what Sarah has put out up until this time. So like her recent thing, I think she posted today, the only other secret I knew about Danika was that she was a blank. And like, it could be so many things. I just finished the reread today and I'm emotionally and physically drained. And I think I remembered everything. I remembered the plot, all the little things that happened. I just made more correlations this time around between like ACOFAE and maybe some Throne of Glass. But I think I disassociated the emotions aside from how much I loved this story and the friendship and their friendship specifically between Bryce and Danika. And it like, remember all the lines. It's like when you're talking about Shadow Hunters, you could only talk about it on a surface level because if you're in it, you're devastated. Like the whole, like, what is it? Like the whole last 100 pages, you're just tears falling. It's a lot. It's a lot. I need to go to bed.
That is, I think, the best way. Like, I need to go to bed. That is exactly right, because the tears, the emotion, like, is all still there. It all hits. It doesn't get any less emotional either.
No,
for me,
progressively.
Yeah, it gets more. So, like, for me personally, like, this is the 3rd time. Like, because I knew what was going to happen, I found myself, like, really avoiding this book for a couple days, or, like really stealing myself. Like, I'm going to set aside an hour and I'm going to sit on the floor with a blanket in front of the heater and just listen to Lahaba in the library. Like, and just deal with that because I know that that's coming. You know what I mean? Like, that's kind of how I went through this book. And I found myself really, really loving Danika just
more.
Yeah, just more. Like, I already love her so much, but like, just more. And that is kind of, I don't want to say because of, but when Sarah released that quote today, about like, so they're still talking about Danika, and that is just something that is really nice to know, that in the next book, like, even though we kind of close the chapter, I guess, I mean, we don't really know, but like in Crescent City 1, we kind of close the chapter on Danika. Like, her energy is gone, right? They say that explicitly, like, her energy is gone. She is not in the Bone Quarter, but it is nice that the memory is still there and they're still talking about her in the next book, and it is just comforting.
Well, I love she's still such a huge character, you know, so far from like what we know from that snippet. And I think it's just it reminds me of some of the books that we've read recently with like Karina and her sister, or with We Free the Stars, or We Hunt this Flame. You have some, like, there's always that character who's just not kind of like their conscience, but I think it's just such a beautiful way to honor somebody who you love so much. And I'm gonna cry. Just because somebody's gone, that doesn't mean that they're not in your life. They're still in your life.
I'm going to pull you out of this.
Thank you, because I'm going to spiral.
Yeah. I'm going to pull you out of this.
I hate life experiences.
You had asked me before we started recording if I had noticed anything during this reread that I hadn't before. And I told you that I noticed something kind of interesting that got me thinking about Hunt that we will talk about later. I want to be... I'm going to say it. I'm going to say it and make you laugh. I want to be very upfront before we dive into anything. This is not a surprise to anyone at all. You already know. I am not a Hunt fan. That doesn't mean that I don't appreciate him as a character. I do. I appreciate him as a character. I appreciate what he's like doing for Bryce, what he has done for Bryce. I appreciate the friendship there, like what he, like the support. Like I get all of this. I understand the character of Hunt. I don't like him as a love interest for Bryce. That is my personal opinion. This is well known. We know this. Hunt Athalar is Kite Man from Harley Quinn, specifically Harley Quinn on HBO Max. You cannot tell me any differently. You cannot. The catchphrase for Kite Man is hell yeah. So you cannot tell me that every time Hunt says hell yes.
Well, and that means like flat. Like I'm not familiar with Kite Man. I don't watch the show, but I absolutely will now because of the one specific clip that Laura had shared with me, and we'll add it into the show notes. Where she's been trying to get me to watch the show forever, and now because in this clip, Poison Ivy is Bryce and Kite Man is Hunt in this moment. And you can't help but laugh. And this is really that was the selling point for me to get to this clip. They're one and the same.
It's too good. So that is how I see him, especially because Hunt likes to lay on the couch and he likes to watch sports and he likes to be in sweats and he likes his hat, which I will get into later because I have something there. But he likes all of this. And it's just like, okay. And,
and it's not to say, I don't want to like go in, I mean, I'll happily bash Hunt. I mean, the first episode, I go, is he he's good for her. Get you some, Bryce Quinlan. I am so happy for you. But as many people know, you don't have to be like with just one partner. Like we know this. She has slept with many people. He could just be another notch in her bedpost and on with her merry way eventually. And if you want to think about other things, like maybe they're good for each other right now. And, and you could make the argument like, oh, the TikTok sound where they're like, that's the only argument I need, Sean. I feel like people are like, well, and I have some examples where I was thinking, okay, are these the examples that people are like, their end game? And then you have other people with other examples who are like, no, Bryce and Adis are end game. And I'd like to propose the argument of, why does it have to be either of these two? Do we not remember Throne of Glass, where you had Sam, you had Dorian, you had Kale, you had Ro? I mean, there were people, and whether she was sleeping with them or not, we obviously know that Aylin's only slept with two people, but she's had other love interests. And why does it have to be one or the other? We could have not even met anybody. And also, why are we fixating on the romantic interest when that's not what this story was about at all?
Say it louder. Say it louder.
It's not what it was about. It's about love and like love and friendship, love and found family, love for like the the lengths that you would go for your friends.
Yeah. This is a story about friendship. I'm trying not to clap my hands too loud. This is a story about friendship.
All the emojis.
Yeah, it is not about like romantic love, in my opinion. Like I do not feel that it is about romantic love. I do not feel that Hunt and Bryce are in a romantic like love situation. And that's great. It's great. I think the story is about friendship, and let them be friends. Let this be a really fantastic example of like male-female friendship, right? Like let that be it, because we know from what Sarah and the publisher has released that Bryce and Hunt are in a platonic situation for at least the beginning of the next book. We know this. This is out there. So, like, great. That's great. So, like,
but it also shows that, like, they're also taking a step back to realize we have bigger shit at play.
Yes, we have bigger shit at play. Okay. So I have some notes. Jess, I know that you have some notes. There are bigger things at play here. So let's talk about some of these bigger things at play. Some of these bigger things at play is, Rune's dad, the Autumn King, has a model of the planets in his office, just like Rhys does in his office in ACOFAE.
Yep.
I want someone to talk about this. No one has talked about this. What the fuck? What is this? What is this? Is it the same one? Probably not, but it would be cool if it was. The Fae situation in the world of Crescent City is very interesting. There are things that we know here for a fact. We know that the Fae, like, came from another world. We know this. We know that the Horn came from another world and was named, Luna's Horn or whatever, after the goddess once they were already in Crescent City. So it was made in another world. The Fae are from another world. So it would just make really fuck sense if some of those Fae were from the ACOFAE world, because, like, it is too on the nose for me that the Autumn King has fire and has red hair. Like, it is just too on the nose for me. And the other like little things in there. So that is where I'm at. So the Autumn King maybe has Rhys's planet thing. That would be kind of cool. I would like more on that. And then I will say this here, because Jess, I said it to you earlier. I have a gut feeling that maybe we are giving too much credit to the plot. And maybe things like this are just Easter eggs for fans to enjoy, instead of like concrete facts that are tying everything together into some epic, end game portal, everybody world solution happening thing. Maybe they're just nods to the readers of all her books, and we just spiral for no reason. That is my little rant on that.
Or we're looking for some sort of connectivity. And I know we talked about this in one of our ACOFAE episodes, where what if we're just, and I relate it to, like, if you're in a marketing or a strategy meeting and you're brainstorming ideas, what if she kind of had a blank slate and then we have these theories of connectivity, and then she goes, oh, well, that's a good idea. I'll write that way. We don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know. For all we know, she was like, had writer's block. And she's like, oh my gosh, I love all these theories. Or I actually don't like that theory, but that's going to help me kind of jump, like a jumping point to do this other theory. I don't know. Nobody knows.
Well, something that you do know, Jess, is you do know that you recognize Rune's powers this time around.
Yes, I can't believe it's literally all there.
It's on page.
It's on page, highlighted, and every time like something came up about the shadows or like the mental talking, because he's like, oh, you're mind reading, he's like, mind talking. I go, oh my gosh, is he a distant relative of Azzy? Because I mean, it's all over the place. But it goes, Rune has been learning to wield his shadows from his hateful cousins in Avalon to wield them as whips and shields in pure torment, physical and mental. And, I mean, we know the Shadow Singer. We know he loves to torture people. Like...
But also, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you bring up a really good point. So he goes to the Northern Fae to do that. The Northern Fae in Avalon with the stag, whatever they call themselves.
With the stag! Yes! And that was a question that I had for you.
Well, so he's up there training his shadows to make swords and shields and like projectiles and shit. What does that sound like? That sounds like Rowan and Aelin in Air of Fire. So, and it's like green and like stags and shit. So like maybe that's them, right? So they're up there, and then the rest of them are down in Crescent City. I don't know. It's just like one of those like weird things that could be something, or maybe it's just like
Easter eggs.
Easter eggs are also like write what you know.
Yeah.
Why not? Because Avalon is just like too fucking similar to Avalon from King Arthur, which is another like misty green isle in the sea with magic. So is it that, like...
Not only that, with King Arthur, what was Rune's ordeal? Having to pull the sword out of the sheath, and he was the only one who... I mean, it's King Arthur.
Yeah, like, hello. But nobody's talking about that either, I don't think. I know that people like relate the world of ACOFAE to, like England and
right,
yeah. But I don't think anybody specifically talks about King Arthur. Maybe,
but I didn't pick it up till this second. Like again, I think something that's super beneficial is everybody gets really intimidated with Crescent City and like the info dumping, and I was clinging on to, initially when my first read, I was clinging on to all of the details, and you said, don't worry about the details, just like read for the plot now. The plot is what's going to make sense. Well, I mean, it's going to make sense anyway, but like there's no need to grasp at the details yet because we don't have a second book. We don't have, and especially specifically me, I hadn't read Throne of Glass. Like I was still going through an ACOFAE hangover. So you kind of nudged me in this direction, and you read it for the plot first. And now with the reread, you're able to pick up those details. Just if you want to make those connections or see, because, well, joke's on me. You think you're not going to have it or anybody really. You think you're like, oh, I know the story. I'll just be able to like, okay, I could focus on the details. Got to focus on the details through the tears. That's like essentially what was happening.
Yeah, chapter 5, it doesn't get any easier. It gets worse with the reread. It gets worse every single time because, like, the second time it's going to happen. And the third time, you're thinking about what Danika must have been thinking about. And it's just like, no thanks.
Well, it took me so long to start the read, just like you said, because, and I think at one point I texted you, I go, any other reread, I'm skipping chapters 1 through 5. I can't take it because... Even when she's in the kitchen, she's like, I'm fine. And she's like, that she's been dealing with the synth, dealing with Redner. You know what's going to happen. And every little information, every step along the way, that she was thinking about, she realized that Micah had killed her pack. Everything that she knew that somebody was coming after her, the way she was setting up the USB, the way that she was getting Bryce so drunk that she can just get the horn tattooed into her, because it was almost like she knew it was inevitable that somebody was going to kill her.
It's really good, right? Like it's so good. I need to pivot away from that because it's like so painful.
I know it's
so painful. Like, okay. So little things that I noticed this time around was, when Rune is really high, he sees a halo of starlight around Bryce, which is really interesting because by the time we get that observation, that is like the second, I think, time starlight has been mentioned with Bryce specifically, because she smells like starlight, right? Like, So there was that.
Lilac, Nutmeg, and Starlight, yeah.
Yeah, Lilac, Nutmeg, and Starlight. So it's just really interesting. So, like, knowing that, it's like, oh, it's there. It's always been there. Now we're just, like, learning about it. Something that I noticed in this reread that I had brought up in our Neon Gods episode, actually, was Hunt starts telling Bryce, like, she needs to eat, right? And like and Bryce is like, fuck you, don't tell me what to eat, what I need. Like, you are not. Take a step back. And I was just like, oh, finally.
I love
finally,
you,
yeah.
I love her so much.
This is what I want. This is what I want. Like my MC.
If I'm not hungry, I'm not going to eat.
Yeah, and don't monitor me. Like, fuck off. Like I
and
absolutely
don't order
love
for me.
It. Oh my God, don't order for me. I cannot stand when people order for me. It is such a pet peeve. Like, I'm sorry. No. I also kind of thought that Hunt's love language is touch. What do you think about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's touch. There is so much thigh touching here. So much thigh touching, so much thigh pressing.
Or like once they get closer, like she has her head on his shoulder or he has his hand, like when they would go to different meetings, like he'd grab her knee under the table or something. Yeah, he's definitely like touch is his love language.
Definitely think touch is his love language.
What do you think Bryce is? It action?
Yeah,
I think service.
Acts of service.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think it's acts of service because just an example of that is she calls Juniper and tells Juniper that she's going to go to the dance class. So that's her like doing.
Or when she needed to go to work and she calls Rune to watch. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's acts of service. That's which makes total sense, right? Like, I mean, if you dig deeper, I mean, we already know her history with the Autumn King and the fact that he like literally was just like what he thought the Oracle had said and believed that she didn't have any powers. He just like chucked her out on the street. And that's a direct correlation. Like, but it goes back further because like her mom, her act of service was leaving the Autumn King. And like her act of service is wound up falling in love with a man who takes care of her and her mom. I think it's just Randall. It's absolutely, you can kind of make it a psychological thing if you want to.
I'm looking at my notes about Avalon. My Avalon notes say specifically Avalon cousins. These are Rune's cousins.
Right.
Mind reading and shadow walking is not related to the Starborn powers.
But he goes, I bet they wish they did.
They wish they did, yeah.
Right.
And he specifically says mind speaking isn't related to being Starborn. So I find that really interesting that they're making that like very clear that Starborn is different.
I wonder if it's like the mind speaking is kind of like a watered, because it's cousins, if it's a watered down version of Damati. Because we know Damati is, mind talking also, not just mind control. And we also know that it's not just between Rhys and Feyre, because we know Rhys will communicate with Cass in ACOFAE specifically, that he's like, you wear your heart on your sleeve, brother. Like they're just having conversations mentally. It has nothing to do with mind control, nothing with, control the barriers along your, it's just conversation.
So we know that all of the parts in the book are broken up into the levels of hell. We know this. And we know that that 7, and Jess, you have very good. 7 is very important in Crescent City. 7 represents so many things. Jess, you have a list of them.
So 7, Bryce says 7, the holy number, or quote unquote unholy, depending on who was worshiping. There's 7 layers of hell, 7 planets, 7 asteries, 7 hills in their eternal cities, 7 neighborhoods, 7 gates in Crescent City, and 7 princes to the layers of hell.
7 princes, and level 7 demons can only be for princes. Like they aren't just like, out there. They're like sent on stuff, which I found was very interesting. Other things that I found interesting on this reread, on the Starborn sword is picky about who draws it. That's why Bryce like actively like leans away from it because it like sings to her, right?
Like calls to like.
Yes, like calls to like. Let's see. But the Starborn sword is useless without the knife because it's part of a pair. They were made from the same meteorite. The knife was lost in the first wars, and when the knife and the sword are reunited, so shall our people be, is the, like, prophecy around it, right? Yeah. And then the Autumn King kills the last Starborn prince before that prince made the drop, which I found was very interesting, and that's why Bryce tells him over and over and over again to try to get Rune to, like, leave his father, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, right. Oh, she was like, I don't want to say, not mind control. What's the word? Like,
influence.
Yeah, I guess that's the best way to say it.
Throughout this whole thing, my love for Bryce is just like not, it is just like more and more and more every single time. It is not dimmed in any way. Like, so it's like sometimes when you reread a book, you're like, ooh, but like
when we do the movies, we're like, this did not age
right,
well
yeah.
as I thought, right?
But like Bryce is still wonderful. She's still so great, so sassy and like powerful and strong and unique and like giving and sacrificing. And I guess she is like on paper the same as like Aelin and Feyre, but like she puts her own like sassy spin on it in a way that's like really different from Aelin, and I love it. I just love it and her.
Like, we talk about, I know we've had conversations in the past, and you had told me specifically where there's some people really don't like Aelin, and then you have people who love Feyre, and I remember in our anniversary episode, I was like, I'm so much like Bryce. Like Bryce, I am Bryce. In light of recent events, even more so. And I remember I was like, she's the best version of myself. But I don't want to say the worst either. It's just like when she's happy, she's great. Her highs are my highs, and reliving the lows with her, I was like, ooh. I mentally blacked out a lot of things, or like I said, I disassociated a lot of like the sadness that comes with this book, and the love that she has for her friends. She's like, when she's running through the Bone Quarter, right? The whole time you're like, and again, from the beginning, it's just like with Feyre in the first ACOTAR book. She was a human fighting, doing all the challenges. She's just a human. She's not Fae. And yeah, through like the running through the Bone Quarter and fighting everybody from hell and everything, she is Fae by blood. But at this point, she's fighting everybody as a human. She's not using her Starborn power. She's not using her Starlight. And she's just a regular person who was trained by a sniper, and she's doing it. And then it's emotional when the Prime is like, there's a wolf in the quarter right now, and Sabine is just, you're just thinking it's Danika, and he goes, no, that is the spirit. Like, that is what I hate Sabine so much, and it always just warms my heart how the Prime already considered and always considered her part of the pack.
It's very powerful. The end is very powerful. Jess, I have a question for you. Where the fuck do you think this is set?
You mean city-wise or timeline-wise?
I'm talking about, like, where is this? Because...
Oh, like how we say, like, Prithian is in the UK kind of thing?
Yeah, because it irks me. It irks me, right? Where is it? They have Sobek in the river. Okay, those are crocs, right? So you got crocodiles in the river. Okay, fine. You got cypress and palm trees. Okay, fine. You have, 7 hills in the Eternal City. Okay, well, that's Rome. Okay, you got angel. Okay. So we're over there.
Here.
You have lots of like gods and so it's this. What is this?
The gods like kind of reminds. I feel like it's just a mixture because remember when we went to the southern continent, it felt like a mixture of a couple things in Throne of Glass. Like I feel like this is a mixture, but I don't know. But then you're like in the heart of a metropolis. I feel like it's a very metropolis type of busy city, but then she's just like walking everywhere.
So what is it?
But there's skyscrapers because there's a part, or you have like the Comitium because there's a huge ass building with all the barracks and all the business offices and all the helicopter pads and like.
So what is it like Athens? Is it like Athens where you have like like the ruins, because the club is an old temple and it's the same kind of like climate. But like, I guess you take like that kind of vibe and like move it further like south, so you get the like the warm, because they're never like cold really, right? They're always like, I don't know.
Yeah. When we're having this conversation, I just looked up, does Greece have palm trees? There are 2 native palm trees to Greece.
Good to know.
So I don't know. Like,
yeah, it's just one of those things, because like the Eternal City on like 7 Hills is just like so freaking on the nose that it's weird to me that you would go to like that level of detail to make it so similar to like what we have here on like real life, and like I don't know. Okay, so I want to talk about Adis.
Of course you do.
I want to talk about Adis. Adis kind of like info dumps on us, which I really, really kind of focused on during this reread. So when Adis is summoned, we get all of this stuff. So he talks about the Prince of the Pit. So he's number 7. Like he's the one. He's the star.
No, he's number 5.
No.
Oh, the Prince of the Pit.
Yeah.
Sorry. I'm thinking of Adis. He's the chasm. Yeah. He's number 5.
No, Adis is telling us the story. So he's telling us about the Prince of the Pit, who's the Star Eater. And he became the Star Eater. Am I assigning gender? I don't want to be.
No, because they say princes are, like, it's,
he. Okay.
The princes are he.
Okay.
That I did look that up.
Okay. So the Star Eater killed an Asteri, the 7th one, Sirius, the Wolf Star, and he ate her. He ate her whole body, and in doing so, got the star inside of him, and that, okay. More about Adis. Adis is blonde with blue eyes. He's in a black suit, and he puts his hands in his pockets. He met Bryce at like 13. Something interesting that he says to Hunt is like, what are you doing here with a black crown on your head? Which is interesting. And everyone's like, what does that mean? Like, obviously, yeah, I want to know that question too. What else does he say? He says, and here's where we circling back to portals, multiple worlds. Rifts open to other realms and planets. So what is hell but a distant planet bound to yours through a ripple in space and time? Your kind, were fallen, into Midgard. You were made, like, with the Asteri. Phase shifters came from their own worlds. The universe has no end. One in a multitude bountiful as the stars. And then we get that Adis can, like, shapeshift, and he can make himself look more like Hunt, if that's what Bryce is, like, into, and I like that.
I didn't pick up on that!
Yeah. He's like, oh, next time I can look more like him, if, like, that's what you're really into.
I mean, I knew he could shapeshift, but I thought it was, like, they were talking about, not, because he's cat.
Yeah.
Or, like, animals that, what do they describe it as, like, animals that are natural to whatever habitat that they're in, wherever they are. I didn't put it together about the heist. I think I must have glossed over that.
Yeah, it was pretty funny. I thought it was pretty funny. And then, like, later on, he visits Bryce when she's, like, sleeping, and she's, like, kind of half awake in, like, a dream kind of sleep. And he is telling her to go make the drop and then come and find him, quote, quote, so we can finish this. That's on page.
He's, like, on her dresser or something. And
yeah, so, like, that is kind of what we get from Adis in those like little scenes, which is a fuck ton of information, really, if you think about it. So, like, and you brought up the audio of, like, that's the only argument I need, Sean, and people are saying that, like, Adis slides his hands into his pockets. That's the only argument I need. Is that an Easter egg, or are we assigning meaning where there shouldn't be? It is what it is. It is what it is. I do like that Bryce changes her name to Bryce is a Queen in Hunt's phone. I love that. I love the self-confidence. I also like the little nod here. Another just little fucking Easter egg of the lavender soap.
Mm-hmm. I loved the lavender soap.
Mm-hmm. It is very good. What else do we have? I'm looking at my notes. My notes tell me that when Bryce gets the venom extracted from her leg, she and Bright and Hunt kisses her. A, quote, star blooms inside of her.
I have something to say with that to jump off that. Can I?
Of course.
So this goes into my, let me try to look at both sides of why people, as much as I'm not a Hunt and Bryce are endgame person, and I will be the first to admit if I'm wrong, like, whoops, I'm wrong, because nobody knows. When he gets her off, there's a line, he goes, nerve in her body exploded into glorious starlight. And I feel like people might use that as that's another reason why they're endgame, because Feyre in the cabin had the starlight, and Aelin on the beach had the starlight when, like, the mating bond connected, and then Nesta and Cassian. But we know from a couple chapters before he got her off that she makes that comment, and then you flash forward to the end of the book where she made the connection that the light came because she didn't have the venom in her leg anymore.
Because the venom neutralizes magic.
Right. So that's me saying, okay, I hear what you're saying, but here's my retort.
Yeah. I have another example about that. People are saying, like, oh, Bryce, like, stills and gets calm and, like, centers when Hunt uses his, like, Fae male voice on her, and, like, that is an indicator of the mating bond. I'm sorry, it happens when Rune talks to her too, so back up. That is not the example to use. If you're going to use an example of it, that is not the one to use, because it also happens with her brother, and they are not mated. So,
and they are not mated.
Sorry. That's, please, another example. But I'm not going to be the asshole that's going to, like, fight on social media about it. Like, no, I'm just going to, like, point it out here, and that's it.
Because, you know what? Everybody could have their own opinion, but why are we going to fight about something we don't fucking know?
We are going to talk about the toxicity of the fandom at the end of the episode, so we are going to table this to the end of the episode. Something. Oh, yeah, no, go.
I had a question, and maybe this, and no, again, we don't know. Maybe we're just giving a lot of credit because she has that starborn light, not necessarily that power. Could it be one of the Fae cousins? Like, I can't remember. Is it Dawncourt? Remember when Feyre comes into the light and she shines and everybody's like, oh my God, our priestess, like, fuck you, Ianthe. Could that be related to that Fae? We don't know, but it just had me thinking of that, and Feyre has the light, and it just made me think of that's part of the Starborn Fae. Or I'm grasping at straws.
What about Diana, the goddess of the moon that takes over Aelin's body when she's on the boat in Empire of Storms? That would make a little bit more right, because
I think Feyre's was just like hers was a party trick. It didn't do anything besides the blinding light. That's why I wasn't.
Yeah, but hers is like like day court, like I would say, like, sunlight, I guess. Okay. And, like, hers is, like, it's different.
Right. Star, yeah.
It's different. I don't know. I was thinking about that connection, because I always thought that part of Empire of Storms was just, like, fucking weird. When she just, like, took over, like, Aelin's body, and, like, that. I always thought it was kind of weird. So, like, that. Oh, something else. A death mark. Death marks that Bryce has to steal to go over to talk to the Underking or whatever. Right. And death marks are pure iron. They are an ancient coin from a long-gone kingdom across the sea. Payment for the dead. That is, what is that? I don't know. It makes me think of a quarter. But I know that's not what it is.
I did think of a coin because it just reminded me of the history when it comes when you're crossing, like, the river Styx, when you're crossing the river and you have the body. Like, that's where I pulled from. Mm-hmm. So I just thought coin, like, iron mark, an iron coin. Here you go. Yeah. That's how you get the attention.
Yeah. I would like of the, an ancient long gone kingdom across the sea. What is this?
I want to know the king. Like, that's what happened with this reread. You're like, what about this?
Yeah. What about
What's
this?
Because then we have the info dumping on things that don't seem relevant right now. And then the things that are vague, you're like, but
what about this? What about this?
This is what I want. I don't want the info dumping stuff. I want the stuff I don't have information on.
Something vague. I like Bryce's comment about how she wasn't sure if she was really fucking horny for Hunt, because she was actually like really horny for Hunt, or if it was just because she had gone weeks without sex and that was like really out of
her vibrator.
Yeah, or her vibrator.
She was like, I haven't done anything, not even to myself, because I have him in the room next
and
door,
he can hear everything and smell
and
everything.
sense
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Poor girl.
So she's just like combusting. And that's just like another kind of example. When people are like, oh, but they're like so hot for each other. It's like, oh, they're both like, it's a forced proximity, like bodyguard situation, all the tropes. No, we love all the tropes. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that this is an example where Bryce herself is pondering the question, do I really want to jump on him because I really want him, or I have just been starved for like, what at that point it's like, what, a month? Like,
yeah, a little over a month. Well, or the last person. Yeah, it had to have. Yeah, it was like a month and a day or something, because the last person she had sex with was the lion shifter
in the bathroom.
in the bathroom before she met Tertian.
Right.
And then Micah came to her like the day after or something, or Isaiah and Hunt came to her after. Oh yeah, and with Micah, because she was the last person seen with Tertian.
Right. My note here is, come for me, sweetheart. Gag, vomit, please no. That is my note. Hell yeah. And he's on the couch, and he's on the, like,
I love Mia. We all know I have that, I think we both have that blissfully bookish tea that's like, I read for the smut. Mm-hmm. We are no strangers to smut. I love a good smut scene. I wasn't into it for this. I think I'm more angry at Hunt the second reread, because I pick up on all the little things. Like, I can stand back and be a little bit more objective with him. What was the other thing? He was like, I got you, sweetheart. And I'm like, or when he did get her off, I sent you a video message and I go, good for her. And then I just started laughing because he was in pain.
Yeah.
I don't know what. I shouldn't find pain so funny.
Come for me, sweetheart. We're gonna have sex. We have sex.
We had a good day.
We had a good date. We're gonna have sex. Kite Man, hell yeah. Okay, Hunt, Kite Man, Athalar. All right. Okay, so let's since we're teasing Hunt, let's circle back to what I said earlier about how I noticed something about Hunt.
Oh, and we should clarify, we read it, like, you did the audio all 3 times, right? Okay, So I did the audio this time and last time, but I also read the book. But I think that'll give some background with what we're about to go into.
Yeah. Okay, so the narrator, Lizzie, she has given Sandriel a very, like, kind of posh, like, proper kind of accent. And what Sandriel says is, she goes, I'm surprised at how common that you're acting. And what she says is, you wanted a common life, simple, sweet wishes. And I just found that really interesting, and I'll go into it. Okay. So Shahar and Sandriel are twins. They're both, like, very powerful, like, archangels. Okay. We know from Hunt's own, like, recollections and memories that Shahar had, like, treasure troves of jewels and, like, gems and stuff. And we know that over in the other continent where Sandriel is, it's, like, misty and there's, like, a keep, and it's, so we can imagine that it's, like, nice and, like, it's expensive. It's not, my point is that it is not common. Okay? It is very, I'm going to say, like, typical, like, fairy tale type-esque is the vibe that I get there. Okay. she's saying that she's surprised that Hunt is so common, wants a common life, and wants like simple, sweet wishes. So our big problem with Hunt is that he's so common. He's so boring. He's so fratty. There just isn't like a spark there. So I guess what I'm kind of pondering is that who he really is? Or is that just like the first thing that kind of caught his eye when he had quote, freedom? And I say that because he wasn't free. He just like was out from under Sandriel. So like, is he adopting this like fratty sport guy lifestyle because it's the first thing that kind of like was available to him, and he's like really leaning into it because it is so different from like this posh kind of like rebel general situation that he had,
going from one side of the pendulum
to the other. And if that is the case, then this man, this angel, this male does not know who he is at all.
Because now, and you and I had discussed this prior to recording, you had brought up, now he's free. He doesn't have the crown. He has the SPQM like tattooed, like it's no longer tattooed, like he's a free citizen, you know. And now who is he? He went from one extreme to the other and tried to find his own identity. It's like Jace.
Mm-hmm. Not everything gets brought back to Shadowhunters. I swear to God. Swear. But
yeah, he doesn't know who he is. He's going from what, like he's pulling, like he has his own lived experiences, but they've all been tethered to something.
Mm-hmm. It's just really, it's really interesting because what does that mean for him? Because and this is something else that I found really interesting about Hunt, is that he really recognizes that he was a really blind zealot for Shahar, and that he was not like, that was not it. He sees himself reflected in what's his name, the bomber, and Philip Briggs, and looks on him with like disgust, and is like, was that what I was like?
Oh, and Bryce has to reassure him, like, you are nothing like this person. But he saw with what Philip was saying, he was like, but what he's saying, I was like that.
Yeah. So that goes to what we were kind of talking about, is just, you were talking about Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
Oh, right. I had asked, I go, do you, because we were talking about Hunt and being ordinary, and then here's Bryce, who's not ordinary, or might be to him. He's just like, here's this person I have to babysit, more or less. But is Bryce his Manic Pixie Dream Girl, was the conversation I was having to you. And you had come back to say, well, here's my supportive argument in support that Shahar was actually the Manic Pixie Dream Girl, and lined up like how Hunt would say, she was the first person to give me attention, and it had nothing to do with my rank. And, you know, she made me feel something. And I was like, so, and I don't want to say that Bryce is the rebound, because that's not what it is. I just think that Bryce is the person, and goes both ways. Hunt is the person for her, and Bryce is the person for him, that they're who they needed and need, I guess, currently at the time that they need each other. You know, it's a timing thing. That doesn't mean this. Or, you know, if you want to talk about like our most recent episode that we had recorded with Karina and Malik, they're who they needed at that time. And that doesn't mean that it's not beautiful and wonderful and great. And sometimes just life happens and they might fizzle. But to come back to it, we're just knowing that all we have is what we have on paper. And Shahar was actually like that Manic Pixie Dream Girl.
She really was. And because she inspired, right? She like brought him to the cause. She gave him purpose. She, he says like, I will always love her. Like, I will always like be in love with her. And, you know, she died, and it was like, he says like, it was like 50 years before I believed that she was dead. And it was another like 50 before it, just like all of this, like really weird kind of, Manic Pixie Dream Girl, bullet point situation.
Well, and even when he was talking to Bryce, I will never get over her. Mm-hmm. You know, he's saying like, and then she's even having to talk herself out of the, it's the whole, if they wanted to, they would. And she's like, why am I getting hung up on this guy? He literally told me to my face, I will never love anybody else.
Yeah, he says, like, I'm still hung up on my dead girlfriend. Like,
Which, again, we said this in our Crescent City episode, he was then, Sandriel rebought him as a slave, who is her twin, his dead ex-girlfriend, his dead girlfriend's twin sister.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That is like so fucked up.
Telenovela shit.
It really is. It really is. Bryce trying to buy Hunt back is so fucking cringy. I can't, I have to force myself to listen to it. If I didn't like want to listen to it just to make sure that I got all the details, then I would fast forward it because I hate it. I hate it so much. It is so embarrassing.
I'm embarrassed for her. I'm also like, you haven't even spoken to him since the trust was broken.
Shattered.
Bothers me that Hunt was pissed at Tharian for when they were walking into the comitium and when the whole summit was starting, and he was like, I didn't look at he's the reason she was there that night. You were there. Don't get mad at Tharian. Tharian was just like, look, I got a hint. Here's some intel. You want to go? I'll take you. Nobody knew that that Hunt was going to be there. Hunt has nobody to be mad at but himself. Take accountability. Don't put this on Tharian. I love Tharian. I love him more this time. I love where Bryce is like, ooh, you're trouble, but I'm still going to flirt with you anyway. I love Bryce is my baddie. I love her so much. Don't get pissed. It felt like 2 episodes of Euphoria ago with Cassie doing anything for Nate because she's just, there have been, I think we can say if we've been in, there's some people who've been in relationships where you look back and you're like, I'm cringing at myself for those actions. Like, that's not who I am as a person. And I feel like Bryce is like that in that moment because she's doing it out. She says it's for her friend. It's for this guy that she likes because she absolutely, in Bryce form, she would have done that for Lahaba. She would have done that for Danika. She did do that for Danika, in fact, with the bone quarter. So it's not in line with Bryce for what she would do for her friends, but it isn't in line for what she would do for somebody that she's dating. But we all have like that one person you're like, ooh, why was I doing that?
Yeah, you have the one person where you're just like, oh my God, I can't believe it. But like if you look at it as like a friendship situation, then like yes.
Right.
Yes. But I have to look at it through the lens of friendship, because if I look at it through the lens of like, you're just like, oh God, no.
Right.
Oh God, please no.
But Rune come through
as
the big brother that he is.
This is like,
I love Rune this second read. Like, I know I talked, and I'll still talk shit. I know we talk shit about his frat house and all that stuff. But, like, he's the lovable, we could talk shit, but he's such a good brother. He's a good, and he tries. He repeatedly tries. And they had the sibling fight, and she held it against him because that's what, we are known to do. We'd be like, I'll never forget the one phrase you said 3 years ago, or whatever time, longer time it is. But she even says, like, I forgave him a long time ago, but then there's that sense of pride to be like, well, now it's been this long. How do I kind of circle back to it and not make it awkward? You're
talking about forgiveness. All I can think about with Hunt specifically is with his betrayal. I feel like people really don't understand the depth of his betrayal, because it really bothers the shit out of me, because he figured it out. He figured everything out like a week before he told Bryce, and then gaslit her for an entire week about her friendship, what she was feeling, and, what kind of person Danika was and what she was doing. All of this, like, complete and utter dog shit. And so, like, he did that for a week, lied to her about it, lied to her about everything else, and then fingered her to completion, which, good. but then like left, like fucking like left and shit. Like
that night.
Yeah.
That night.
It is just wild. And then he's like, oh, I tried to stop it because I want a life with you. It's like, yo, bro, then
but you're
like,
going to tell me that the only time you realized you wanted, like, you cut the deal off or you were making the conversation, like, you literally got her off and he was like, oh, now I'm going to text my work buddies to say,
like, oh, no, it's not worth it. Yeah. Like,
hey, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. Like, it just, it is such a deep, like, bone deep betrayal because he knows what Danika means to her. So, like, him being like, she was just a drug addict. To, like straight face in her eyes. This is her soul sister. And he is just gaslighting her this whole week. And people are like, oh. No.
And on top of that, again, we touched on it lately and when we first talked about it, how dare you even if she was addicted to synth, even if she did abuse this drug, how dare you come to somebody with somebody else that they love in their life who has a substance abuse problem? That doesn't mean I'm going to love that person any less. It's an addiction. Yeah, so even though that's not the case with Danika, I'm still like, how fucking dare you? You don't know anything. And it also kind of shows you the type of person you are if you're going to negate somebody's love just because they have a substance abuse problem, just because they might be addicted to alcohol. Maybe they have another type of addiction. How dare you? And negate my love? No.
And people are, oh. But up until that night, he had the plan to go through with this. So he was going to say fuck all to all of this. To Bryce, he was going to say fuck all to that and go give this into the human rebels and like start another fucking rebellion. He did not give a shit about any of this like situation with her. So like I just and
oh yeah,
because that was the deal.
Yeah. I'm like sitting on it more and more. Yeah, that like I know because he wanted him, not Isaiah, Justinian.
Yeah, Justinian and the Wraith.
And the Wraith, not Naomi, Victoria. They wanted to take the synth so they can have that power for a hot second, too, once they knew what it was.
Yeah, so that they could try to...
right.
Yeah. So there was like, no, it was like... it was like afterthought beyond afterthought for Bryce. And like, he got her off and like felt kind of guilty about it and decided to call it off. But fucking this is what I don't understand.
But okay, but oh my God... as he's pleasuring her, he's still gonna go through it.
And like here's the other thing. Why did he show up?
If he was like they still wanted to go through it, then why did you show up?
Okay. Let them. What the fuck? What do you have to be there for? You don't have the money. Like, it's not your money. Like, it's said that is like clear. They say that. They said it was like Victoria's money. So like, it's not his money. He doesn't need to be there. If you cared, you wouldn't like.
Yeah. And what did they say? They go, the only reason Isaiah told Hunt or something, the only reason that you're in jail and being sold to Sandriel as opposed to Justinian and Victoria is because they saw the text exchange. Exchange the text, don't go.
Yeah. You cannot win here, leave.
And then when she's like obviously shaken, her trust is betrayed. And how do you come back from like losing that type of trust? They did somehow, but I fucking wouldn't.
Well, it brings me back to that quote that I think I shared in our like our friend like group chat.
Yeah, our group chat.
It was like when you forgive him, he loves you more like every day because you forgave him, but you like love him a little bit less because you're waiting for him to do it again. And it's just like, yeah.
Right.
I am waiting for Hunt to like do it again. And I know like, so his love language is touch. So he like rushes down. Okay. This is the other thing. I enjoy the scene of Hunt descending from the helicopter, you know, and like slamming into the ground and like wrapping himself around Bryce and like touching her because, touches, you know, all that stuff. Like, I enjoy that scene, but it is too fucking similar to Az and Cass, and I prefer that scene.
That scene is one of my top 3 scenes of the entire series.
Yeah, so I prefer that scene. So now, when I think of Hunt descending from the helicopter, I just think of Kite Man with his kite going like, "Here I come!" You know, like, and it's not the vibes. Like, I understand this is a me
Kite
problem.
Man is not the vibe.
Kite Man is not the vibes here, but like that is what I see, and it is just like, it is. Okay, so Regulus. The Asteri. I learned a lot about the Asteri. Did you see that the Asteri, the stars are like inherited and like born? You can't really like.
But isn't there? Wasn't somebody saying that there are only like 6 seats? Like there's a 7th seat missing of the Asteri, even though we know 7 is a powerful number.
Yeah, they never replaced Sirius, the Wolf Star, after the Prince of the Pit ate her.
Okay.
They never replaced her. But Regulus is in a teenage body. He is the right hand of the Asteri. I like this. So the Asteri are like entities of energy that contain themselves in like bodies, and they live until the bodies like burn out, I guess, is like what I can understand. And it's kind of like they have like a connected like consciousness, but they can also talk like independently.
I feel like even with the second read, I know the Asteri are important, and obviously like they oversee everything, like all of the archangels. But I feel like I have a lot of questions. I don't even want to say I have a lot of questions. There's just still a lot of unknowns. Yeah,
there's a lot of unknowns. There's like very little that we know, but we do know that Regulus is in the body of a teenage boy, and we will talk about Regulus. Let's talk about the Library of Parthos, because we got a lot of information about the Library of Parthos that I actually like paid the fuck attention to this time. Okay, so the Library of Parthos was the human library that existed before the Asteri came through like the portals and shit. So that establishes the humans as the original inhabitants of like Midgard or whatever. So the humans have been under like 15,000 years of slavery under these like it is fucking wild. But I don't know if you picked up on this. The Archesian amulets that Bryce wears, like she wears 2, like the one and then one gets melted,
the one
and
that's melted,
and she puts the other one on.
Right.
Those are the amulets that were worn by the priestesses of the temples of Parthos.
Right.
So those are like original, like human, like magic negating amulets, which I just find very interesting. It is just very interesting. And then the humans made had a doomed army, made a last stand against the Veneer. Okay, so there's another little detail in here talking about Bryce's tattoo, and it's a line that says like nobody can read this this alphabet.
It's in the old Fae language, right?
Well, it's in the language of universes, and Bryce says that she just picked it out of like a thing, you know, whatever.
Right.
Do you think it's word marks?
Yeah.
Yeah. Right? Like, yes. I think it's like quite obviously word marks. I think it's very, very interesting that like that is not what we see.
Oh, like when we see in fan art depicted?
Yeah. Like we don't see that, but like it's probably word marks.
Yeah.
Is what I think. And then we get. So Micah says something really interesting. Micah says, like, I want to open the horn. We're going to kill all the humans. And Bryce goes, are you going to open a portal to hell? And Micah says, no, hell won't bow to me. And I just found that really interesting. That is a really interesting, like.
But he already knows that Bryce is the horn at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So Micah was saying, hell won't bow to me. Undertone, but they'll bow to you because she's Starborn Fae. And that person, there's a person who has to control the Starborn Fae who has the horn. Like, it's a connected thing, no?
Let's see. Bryce is the only one that can use the horn.
And the only person who can use the horn is a Starborn Fae, which means it's her or Rune.
Yes.
And she is the horn.
Yes.
And the only but it has to be in conjunction with the prince of the pit.
Not necessarily, no.
Oh, it doesn't?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
No.
I don't know why.
Your connection is because the Prince of the Pit stole Pallas's blood to make the Crystallis to hunt the horn. That is your connection.
Okay.
You are like very right in very, very, very correct. Very correct there. I find it interesting that Micah said specifically that hell won't bow.
So, remember when we're talking about Adis, and this is all speculation, come to me when you complete the drop so we can finish this. And then, and he's a Prince of Hell. And, that'd be kind of a fun twist if she goes like evil, not evil for a hot second, but like take this reroute to try to like control everything. And we know with the epilogue, Adis and Jessica are talking. And they're talking about the library. The library moved. We know Jessica is over 15,000 years old because she was there at the time of like essentially the burning of the books. And she saved as many books as possible. So she had to be of a certain age to she wasn't a kid, more or less, when this stuff was happening. In my head, she's something. She's not 8 years old saving these books. And she says to Adis, basically, like, don't screw us over again, which leads us to assume that something happened where he screwed them over. And now he's trying to, like, I feel like Adis, there's something there with Adis where he's like, so we can finish this. Finish what? She's Starborn. She is the horn. She's the only person who can control it. And there is a prince of, could be Adis that could work in conjunction with that. I sound like a conspiracy theorist.
You don't. So Bryce is the heir to the Starborn Fae, and she has the pure light of a star from another world, the gift of the ancient Fae reborn. Just light. I'm looking at my notes. Just light. Not like the Asteri. Not like their stuff. It is just light. And then we get into Prince Pallas and Queen Thea and the humming and the shimmering star sword and like light calls to like. So what you're like, to go back to what you're saying is that like when Adis in the epilogue is talking to Jessica and they're like, no, like I can tell Bryce's starlight. It's just like Thea's. Let me go. Thea, her light was forever extinguished. She died under Prince Pallas's blade. Her light is reborn in Bryce. It is a song in my blood. So, like, what the fuck happened there? What is that?
So you have this theory where I can see where you were saying Thea could, and Adis had a thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm thinking like Thea and Adis had a thing, and that's why Pallas like killed her, because Pallas, Thea is like his mother-in-law.
Okay.
So like maybe she did a thing and had an affair, or like did a betrayal, or like, there was like a double cross with Adis, and maybe that's it. And
was Thea and was she Fae or
Starborn Fae?
She's Starborn Fae. So then is Bryce, because he's saying like song in my blood, is it meant in this poetic romantic sense, or is it like Bryce is a distant relative of Adis, like distant.
Yeah, like light calls to like thing.
Yeah.
I don't know, but that's a theory. That's theory. It's very interesting. Let me look. So we were talking about the venom that neutralized the magic that Bryce had in her leg. It was this like, this guilt kind of thing that she has. We talked about that in our first episode. So when she takes it out, she feels the star bloom in her chest, and it just so happens that Hunt is kissing her at the same time. But it just so happens it would have happened even if he hadn't have kissed her, because it was out.
Well, he was kissing her to just, I think part of the reason is like, were they caught up in the emotion? Sure. But I also think he was kissing her to like, because it wasn't like this make out thing. It was just like this soft first kiss.
Yeah.
And I think that it was like to help distract her from the pain.
Yeah. And the line is like the venom was out and she felt the light awaken again and she felt free. So like, and this is just like another, so like Bryce has her freedom with her power. Everybody knows who she is now. Everybody knows who her father is. There are no secrets now. She can be, and she's very powerful.
And now she's a quote unquote key, based on the Instagram post, she's a key player, whether she likes it or not.
Right. So we have all of that. That is all very interesting. I do like how Bryce's first light fixes the city. It's really good. I will not talk about the drop because it is so fucking powerful. The only thing that I'm going to say about the drop is the line that just like breaks me, and it's like, it was enough. That it's just, it's so good. It's like Bryce, like us as the reader has realized that Bryce has realized that she's not going back and that she's fine. She's traded her place. She will wander in that like afterworld kind of purgatory place, and it's fine because Danika was there and it was enough. And that's all I'll say on that. So there was another, I don't know if you caught it this time because it's very emotional, but there's another fucking riddle in this book, and the riddle answer again is love. So I didn't feel...
Oh, the thing with the prime?
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. What brings loyalty beyond death?
Right. But I knew, like, we know it's love. We know through love all is possible. But I didn't realize it was...
It's like another
riddle.
Fucking riddle.
What was the book that we had an episode on where, it was like Kingdom of the Curse, the Wicked? Maybe it was it was whatever the second one was. And I had guessed what was happening. And you were like, and I didn't realize it was supposed to be like a secret. I thought it was just everybody knew. That's how I read that. I thought everybody knew that it was
Okay, so now we're at the end of the book, and we have Regulus. Regulus is calling, and Regulus frees Hunt from, like, all things, because, like, Hypaxia, Queen. Yeah.
I love Hypaxia. I have a theory there.
Yeah, love Hypaxia. Hypaxia and Therian. I want that. So, everybody's freed, and Regulus says, you need peace and contentment, joy. Use your starlight. Don't use the horn. And then they say that, like, Hunt is no longer the shadow of death. And we know that the library has been moved by Jessica at this point. Those are the things that I have picked up on this reread that are different, like, from our first episode. And I know that we have some, like, questions, and I feel like we could probably give maybe, like, speculative answers. And then we want to talk about a little bit about, like, toxic fandom environments, because I feel like that's very important.
I feel like we've kind of worked through some of the questions. Oh, I don't know if it's so much a question. I mean, I have a question and then I have a theory. My question, I was like walking through the horn belonged to the first Fae. And then I thought, is it part of the Dread Trove because of what we know with ACOFAE now? And then we know that there's the mask, the crown, the harp. And then, like, as I was reading, and then there's a fourth unknown trove item that's quote unquote seen by like Nesta in Lanthus's vision or something. So that's where I don't know if is the fourth dread trove item this horn, or does it go back to saying like maybe these books aren't connected and we just want them to be in some case. I know Katie Robert, there's a lot of criticism just overall, not just in books in general, where people will say like, oh, the writer is writing the same story in a different font. And Katie Robert had this wonderful tweet. She goes, yeah, there's a lot of criticism, but like the writer is writing what they know. And it also goes to that quote, like, if it's not broke, why fix it? Like if this is how she writes books, and obviously we're all like foaming at the mouth for whatever content she puts out, then like if it's working for everybody, why change it? Why can't that work again?
Well, and you bring up a really good point. So in the library scene with Micah, when he's attacking Bryce, and we're not gonna get into it. It's all covered in our first episode. She does Bryce, her fingers touch on the Book of Breathing, the Walking Dead, the Queen of Many Faces and the Divine Number. The Queen of Many Faces...
Why did that was familiar, but I couldn't connect it. Why did that seem familiar?
Because it is used, I think, very briefly to mention like a god or a goddess in Throne of Glass. I think like very briefly, but it reminds me of Throne of Glass just because like Queen of Many Faces is just like what I think of like with Aelin. She's got like so many fucking names. So that's what I thought of. I don't know about the Divine Number and whatever, but we know the Book of Breathing from ACOFAE. We know the Walking Dead from Throne of Glass. So that's really interesting. Is there a reason? Is it an Easter egg? I don't know.
Well, and then like they say like the horn, and then you want to talk about the fourth trove item that's unknown, and here's my speculation with the horn. And then it further goes into the horn having being a sentient horn, and we've only learned about sentient like quote unquote like inanimate objects in the last 365 days because of ACOFAE.
Mm-hmm.
With the house. Again, could be like not connected and just an Easter egg for us.
Or not, because the horn was made in another world. So it would make sense that the horn was part of the trove.
And we know that the harp can take you to other worlds.
Yeah, the harp can take you to other... it's very convoluted. That's the thing, too. It's like, it's very convoluted. I want to talk about the toxic fandom because I was very worried when ACOFAE came out, and it turns out that all my worries were, validated. And
oh, yay! Such a great thing to have validated.
Yes. We want validation. We love validation, but maybe not for that. The fandom, and that's including like we are part of the fandom. Like yes, but the fandom can really turn on people and turn on like characters and turn on authors and turn on books and turn on everything. So I just am really nervous for this book release, and I do feel like I'm going to take a couple of days while I'm reading, definitely off of like social media, so that I'm not influenced in any kind of way by people like speed reading through this book and then shitting on it, because that's what happens first, right? The shit happens first before the praise comes. And I don't want anything colored because I really do enjoy this book and I like all these characters and I'm interested to see where all these characters go. And it's not like with ACOFAE where like I just didn't give a fuck about Nesta and I didn't care about her journey. So I was like not hate reading it, but I wasn't reading it for like enjoyment because I knew it wasn't for me.
Right.
I feel like this next book is like gonna be in my wheelhouse, and I don't want the negative opinion of people to, and the negative people of the author, of the story, of everything to really like shape how I feel about it, because I am excited and I don't want to get shit on.
I feel like it's gonna, for me, I think where you talk about where everybody shits on it first and then they go back and they go, oh, kind of like, I remember you sharing with me regarding Crescent City, the people who loved it. Then there were a ton of people who just didn't get it because it wasn't even like in the same era, more or less. And it was just completely like, it's more modern. It's not what they're used to with her writing. And there was a lot, and I just, that wasn't my experience, obviously, because I came in later. But there was, and I feel like with ACOFAE specifically, I enjoyed it. And I came out, I had the opposite thing. I was like, I enjoyed it. I came out of it. I sped read it because I didn't want anything to be ruined for me. Then when I was able to take a step back, let the emotion settle, and then when you, Kaven, and I all discussed it out, I was like, I don't disagree with anything. I can't disagree with anything that y'all are saying, because I was then able to like come down from the first release high. I had never been part of a release day. I was just like immersed in everything. I still am, but I think I could be, I say I could be a little bit objective. I'm not. I love Bryce so much. And now that I know that Danika is still like this key player in the back of her mind, I'm still just so enthralled with it. I know it's going to take me a couple rereads because I'm going to have the first, I don't want it spoiled. And I don't want to completely stay off social. I'll just swipe through because I don't want my algorithm to get fucked. I just got it okay again.
Oh, it's so true. The damn algorithm. Question and answer.
Ooh.
Who is Hunt's father?
Well, we have speculation.
Yeah, we do. I mean, it's not really speculation. It's just like fucking astrology.
Here. Hunt is the hunter, which is Orion.
We know that's
and what's
his name.
The biggest? We know that's his name. That's on paper. That's not a speculation. What is the biggest star on the Orion constellation, Laura?
It's Regulus. It's fucking Regulus. Oh my goodness. So, I mean, that would all kind of make sense, wouldn't it? This would all tie together quite nicely if it were Regulus. If it's not Regulus, I think it's a Star Eater somehow. I don't know how. Somehow. If it's not Regulus, it's a Star Eater. These are my thoughts.
Who do you think is the threesome scene? Because we know she didn't take it out of this one. I have one. I think it's Hypaxia, Rune, and Therion.
Yeah, so do I. Yeah, I think it's Hypaxia.
Like, I know she has a thing with Rune, but there's this thing that really had me wanting Hypaxia and Therion, and I didn't realize it till I read it the second time, where they're just basically supporting each other in the summit. And she goes, Hypaxia went back to the papers before her, but her eyes lifted to the second ring of tables, to Therion. The mermail gave her a slight secret smile, gratitude and acknowledgement. The Witch Queen nodded back, barely a dip in her chin. The mermail then just casually lifted his paper, flashing what looked like about 20 rows of markings, counting something. Hypaxia's eyes widened, bright with reproach and disbelief, and Therion lowered the paper before anyone else noticed and added another slash to it, and a flush crept over the Witch Queen's cheeks. What the hell was he marking down that has her all like, I can't believe he's keeping track of it? And now, maybe it's like how many times she was like checking them out or something. I don't know. I just want them so bad.
Yeah, I think it's them. I don't think that Sarah would give us Bryce, Hunt, and like, who?
I think Sarah is definitely like, she'd do male, female, not like, she just, I mean, especially with what she alluded with Nesta.
Yeah.
Well, Nesta, we know Nesta has had a threesome. And then again, when she's having thoughts of Cass and Az, because same.
yeah. I think it'll be, male, female. Yeah. I do not think that for her first threesome scene that she would put her MCs in it. I think that she would, no, it would be side characters first and then build up, I like confidence for a writer, right? Like she hasn't, they took out the other one, right? So like this one's in. So you did it. Those are just what I'm thinking. I could be totally wrong.
And I don't think she realizes how many, maybe she does. I don't know. I don't know her. People are invested in her side characters.
Yeah.
Every time.
Yeah, every time.
I love Hypaxia. I love the accent that Lizzie gives her. Like, it's very soft. And Rune even comments on that. He realizes, like, this person, when he only knows her as the Med Witch, realizes that he's Fae and they have heightened sensitivity. And she, like, alters her interaction with different people. Like, she's just very, she's like an empath. She very much reads the people that she's around and changes her approach with those people. And I think it's a lovely thing, and it's perfect for the type of ruler that she is. And she says it right up front, and her actions, match with what she's saying of the type of queen she wants to be. And at the summit, she's like, I'd rather be fighting along like Bryce than sitting here and doing nothing. And I love her. Queen in the truest sense.
We always like witch queens, right? Manon, like we love our witch queens. Other questions. Where's the knife? Nobody knows. It's lost, right? Where's the knife? We don't know.
Which means, I mean, in my head, it's like, okay, it'll come back.
It'll come back. Yeah, we'll find it. I think another question out there was like, there's a really big emphasis on Syrinx and that he can pick locks and like open doors and
well, they talk about it in the beginning and then they wrap it up at the end, like, oh, I'll tell you more about his stuff later.
And like he doesn't, obviously, but I think he can like teleport short distances.
Yeah, he can teleport because he would leave his cage, teleport to where Hunt was on the roof, and then come back and like act like a good little boy for Bryce.
Yeah. So, that'll come into play at some point. That's not just like in there. There's like a reason for that.
Right. But that's why I feel like there was like a lot of the info dumping, the details. There's so many details where I go, that doesn't make sense to have this much detail, especially with like a reread once you know. it doesn't make sense to have this many details for it not to play out later.
Right. Yeah.
And not even necessarily in the second book.
Yeah, like long game.
She's contracted for 3. She said this in an Instagram live, so this isn't like spoiler or anything. She's contracted for 3, and she said, quote, "But you all know how that goes with me."
Yeah. I mean, yeah, we all know what happened with Tower of Dawn. So, yeah. Other questions? Do we have other things that we should be like,
Oracle telling Hunt, stay away from Bryce.
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, no. Let's talk about the fucking Oracle for a minute. Talk about the Oracle. We were talking about place setting. And Oracle is very Greek. And then they say that, no, they're not going to go to the oracles. They're going to go to the something else,
yeah.
Which is also very Greek.
Maybe it is like Southern Greece or something, because then you have the tossing of the coin over the river.
Yeah, these are what I'm thinking.
Viper Queen, old and different.
The Viper Queen gave me very much Stygian spider vibes. Mm-hmm. And that just could be that they are both like old, wily, kind of cunning characters, because they are. Or that is like something else, like what specifically about her makes her who she is. But that just goes back to my slight annoyance with not knowing the setting, because with the like god situation, if we have like Sobek, and Sobek is like an Egyptian, so like the Viper Queen, is she like some sort of like goddess? She's old and ancient, you're in sort of like a setting where that would be like not far-fetched. Do you know what I mean? Like,
right.
So like my first thought is this is like a Medusa situation, but like no, but this is similar kind of. So I don't know, that's where I am with that. Like when they specifically say that like she is different from like literally everybody else, like why?
What makes her different?
Yeah. So I think based on everything that it could be something like that, like she's like half something. I don't know. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting that it's a Viper Queen who oversees the meat market, where they have a big motto that says like, "Remember, you too will die."
Memento Mori.
Yeah, that is whispered in Caesar's ear. There's a guy that sits there and holds the laurel wreath above Caesar's head during his processions, where Caesar is like, feeling all of this like godliness, right? That's what it is. It's like godliness. There's a man next to Caesar that whispers in his ear, "Remember, you too will die." So that is the connection that I was trying to make earlier. With the setting, it is just so much pulled from there that it is impossible for me to separate it. That's what it is. That is the connection I was trying to make with the palm trees and everything, with the laurels.
Oh, okay.
That's what that was. I made it. I did it. I made full circle. I'm proud of myself. I like when I finish my thoughts like that. I don't know, Jess, do you have anything left to say? Like,
I'm excited. I love that we're going back. I love that we're going back into the world. I hope it's a little less. I hope I'm not crying. I don't want to be this stressed. But then again, like Bryce and Danika was just such a special friendship right from the beginning, right from chapter 1. I loved them. We know this. We've discussed it many times in multiple episodes. So who knows how going into this one, she has that relationship like in her heart with Danika, but she doesn't have a person like that right now. So I don't know if I will, I'm trying to be very objective. I took the day off of work to start the first read so I can make a dent in it. And then we'll go from there. I'm nervous. I'm very nervous for the toxicity, because I remember with ACOFAE, I was just like, "Oh, I'm so excited. Why aren't you so excited?" Now I know why. I just don't want there to be hate. And like, as much as like there is toxicity in the community, we also have the other end where you have so many people who are so supportive. And at the time that this episode will be released, it's being released the day before the House Sky and Breath comes out on the 14th. The shop Enchanted Oddities, Kayla's having a Crescent City drop on the 15th. So she's just so wonderful, and she's so supportive, and she just wants everybody in the community to be happy. And she's one person doing this like crazy shop operating out of her room. So you have shop owners like her who just like wishes, she's like, don't have as many hands to make all the things that I want to do to make so many people happy. So it's like, again, in a way, it's like the pendulum, with Hunt, he goes from one extreme to the other. And it's very much how this community is, where it's like, you have one extreme or the other. And I really want to stay on the nice side.
Really want to stay on the nice side. And, with Enchanted Oddities and Kayla, it was just so... I want to say like meant to be. It was just like one of those things where I don't even remember. It was like one of us stumbled on the account and we're like, oh my God, this is embroidery. This is exactly what we want. We haven't been able to find it anywhere. And it was just one of those like serendipitous meant to be things. And we love her.
She could keep my...
I know, just keep it on file. Just keep it on file. Just like charge it anytime something comes out. Like, honestly, she's wonderful. And of course, we love and support like small business and the community, all of that. Not sponsored. No, not sponsored. Not anything like that.
No, but I think that was like, just since we started the podcast, and even in 2020, I think I have not put in a structured dress in the longest time, or any structured clothing. And I just think it was really easy, especially as we continue in this pandemic and everybody's like dealing with, like all the small shops are dealing with supply chain management issues, that you want to support the small businesses. Like, why wouldn't you? And it's fortunate for us in the book community. It's the small businesses that are what are giving us what we want for that content. You're not going to necessarily find it on an Amazon or a Walmart or a Box Lunch, as much as, we love, as much as you want to find things for at affordable prices at all those places. Our community is so niche that you have to, you do work with these small businesses, and we're all kind of in it together, and it makes it that much. I'm happy to put my card down. And happy to support, so happy to support. And it's just like, when you are shopping small shops, most of the time you have the opportunity to interact with the owner in some small way, even if the owner, on Etsy too, like they'll message you or something. And she's so nice. She's just so nice. And sometimes not everybody is nice. And it is so wonderful to have your initial like vibe check reassured when it's like, you are good people. It is just so nice. Who's like that? Catherine from Blissfully Bookish is like that too. You're not going to find that in, a capitalist company. Shop small. So feel free to follow us on Instagram. We are at ACOFAE Podcast. We're also both on TikTok, ACOFAE Laura and ACOFAE Jessica. And feel free to leave us a review. We'd love it if you left a 5-star review at wherever platforms are accepting reviews. So thank you so much. We look forward to hearing from you. We look forward to everybody's theories. Sky and Breath is out. Let's make this a good experience for everybody.
Just be nice. Everyone, just be nice.
Talk to y'all soon. Bye.
Bye.